11 years have passed since the release of Diablo 3, and 23 years since Diablo 2, which means there is a lot riding on Diablo 4, as gamers might not be seeing another one for, well, a decade. And I'm happy to say that Blizzard has exceeded all of my expectations with this launch. If you're an old school Diablo 2 fan like me, then this game is dangerous. I've been getting less sleep than I have all year, and I'm starting to look a bit like my necromancer here. I'm theory crafting new ways to min-max my build all day long, especially when I'm not gaming. I am addicted all over again, and I love it. But I'm also floored by some of the extremely impressive back-end technology that Blizzard has employed to make this game just that much more enjoyable. And I want to get into exactly what that tech is a bit later in the video. Now, NVIDIA reached out to me to showcase their new DLSS 3 tech running in Diablo 4, and I gotta say, it works insanely well. Also, a big thank you to NVIDIA for sponsoring this video, and if you've got a 40 series GPU, Diablo 4 is going to run like absolute butter. Now, when booting up the game and turning it up to 4K maxed out visuals but leaving DLSS turned off, I get about 180 frames per second, but that tends to drop a bit lower once combat begins. Still an incredibly respectable frame rate, especially considering that the game looks stunning. However, once I flip that magical AI accelerated DLSS 3 switch, and all of a sudden I'm averaging 270 FPS in most areas of the game. What the heck? DLSS 3 is advertised as a 2.5 times performance boost in this game, which I think it certainly can be depending on how much you're stressing the visuals. And also turning on low latency actually gives me better latency than before I had DLSS turned on to begin with. I don't think I've played a modern release of any game with this much FPS headroom while at maxed out visual settings on 4K. Frankly, you'd be hard pressed to even find a monitor that can keep up with the frame rate that this game can deliver. Here I am maxed out at 4K 144 Hz. Now, to be fair, I am running a 4090, which is NVIDIA's flagship card, but their benchmarks show that everything from a 4070 and up will push this well past 100 FPS on maxed out settings. It's pretty wild what DLSS 3 can provide and has shown to provide in many other titles as well. And with this much FPS headroom, it makes sense that Blizzard is planning to add RTX ray tracing as well. They don't have a release date set for this update yet, but I can only imagine how much further the visuals are going to be pushed with truly accurate RTX lighting. Now, speaking of the visuals, Diablo 4 has really brought the franchise up to par. No offense, Diablo 3, but it's time to kiss those original Tomb Raider character models goodbye. Stylistically, this game is sort of a sweet spot between Diablo 3 and Diablo 2, with Diablo 2 being a much more dark and gothic approach to even the user interface, and 3, well, colorizing things a bit more. 4 takes the best of what worked in both franchises and pushes them forward to an impressive degree. The visuals of the world are masterfully crafted. If you like game art, you'll be gawking at the impressive vistas, the cutscenes, and even the details of the environment that all have fun, dynamic, reactive properties. Each region even has its own distinct feeling, visual style, and narrative elements to set it apart from others. And doing this type of detail work on any level is extremely time-consuming for developers and requires top talent to even pull it off correctly. But considering the truly epic scale of Diablo 4, it's even harder to wrap your head around just how much effort has gone into this project. The world is simply massive. I beat the main storyline, and it's a long game, by the way, about 35 hours, and that's without extensive side questing, and I still haven't even explored most of Sanctuary, nor have I completed most of the quest. Considering the sheer wealth of the side stories, there could easily be hundreds of hours in the side quests alone, which really aren't even the main focus of the endgame anyway. Now, comparing Diablo 4 to any previous Diablo game is just a disservice to those games. As much as I loved them at the time, they simply can't compete on any level. but especially not on scale. This game is kind of like the size of an MMO, but with the inner workings of an action RPG. Though the inner workings are really something to behold, and honestly one of Diablo 4's greatest strengths. If you played any of the previous Diablo games, or just other action RPGs or MMOs for that matter, you'll probably be familiar with the leveling problem between friends. Rarely are you the same level or have the same quality gear as your buddy, but you still want to play together and not have one person's experience suffer because of the level difference in characters. Some games have tried to address this with varying degrees of success, but Diablo 4 masterfully scales power across parties. So, say that I have a character doing 100 damage per hit to a bad guy while my friend is dropping 500 damage per shot because they're a higher level and have some better gear. Well, it all gets adjusted on the back end, so percentage-wise, we end up hitting for relatively similar chunks of health based on your character level and just how well you've optimized your build. It doesn't matter as much that someone's double the level of you. You can still party up and have a good time and feel like you're both pulling your weight. I teamed up with Matimio one evening to run through an act of the game, and he was a bit further ahead than me, but it didn't stop us from playing together, getting XP and having fun without feeling like he was carrying me through stuff. I don't know what kind of mad scientist over at Blizzard got this system working so well, but it just does. It's probably one of the best quality of life updates to any co-op level-based game that I've seen. Now that said, once you start to min-max your character, especially with some of the unique drops you'll get later in the game, you can improve your character's efficiency far beyond your level rating to get that sort of demigod feeling that I know you're craving. Though that tends to happen at much higher ranks and still shouldn't be a deal breaker for playing with friends. It just means that one player might be able to clear baddies at a considerably faster rate than another, but both will still be getting XP and surviving the same encounters. Now the class building system is also incredibly deep while still inviting a lot of creativity. Comparing this to something like, say, Diablo 2 that makes it somewhat cumbersome to play around with builds and experiment while you're leveling up, Diablo 4 lets you swap stuff around much faster. You can cheaply unlearn skills on the fly and reallocate points as needed. Even the endgame Paragon boards let you instantly remove points and reallocate as you would need without cost or punishment. The gear you find is also somewhat flexible, and you get access to crafting and modding early in the game so that you can really do a lot of the stuff that would otherwise be reserved for endgame tweaking while you level up your character. It's just a joy to have this much freedom to rework and theory craft without a ton of blockers slowing you down. That said, there are of course unique items and rare aspects that you'll really want to try and grind for to boost your power level at the end game, but again, that kind of makes the whole loot drop aspect of the game much more exciting. Now, narratively, Diablo 4 takes a very big departure from the previous games in that it goes deep. Like, way more interesting characters, more backstory, heartbreaking moments, and epic action sequences. It can be hard for an action RPG which is told from mostly a top-down perspective to get you to relate to your characters in the world, but this game does, and I found myself experiencing emotions.
I have been emotionally compromised.
Lilith, the main baddie that you're chasing throughout the campaign, is also a very interesting character, and the narrative does a great job of making you think that her goals might ultimately be your goals. The game certainly does a great job of blurring the lines between the so-called righteous and the demons, and has you questioning a lot of things, and I just think it's fantastic. Plus, any old school fans of the franchise will also run into a lot of throwback characters, and it is cool to see some of my favorite baddies from Diablo 2 reimagined in Diablo 4. I won't be showing that footage as I don't want to ruin any surprises, but if you sunk thousands of hours into Diablo 2, I think you'll be pleased with some of the demonic cameos. This game is firing on all cylinders, and it's arguably the ultimate action RPG. He says, without even having a maxed out character or being an action RPG expert. Okay, I don't really have the qualifications to back up that statement, but I'm a weathered gamer with high standards for what I spend my gaming time on, and Diablo 4 has exceeded all of my expectations, significantly so in some areas. I can full-heartedly recommend this game to anyone who thinks they might enjoy an action RPG. And honestly, the hardest thing about making this video was just pulling myself away from Diablo 4 to actually put it together. Now I'm gonna go try and make my Summoner Necro build work, but I did also just find a really sweet unique that massively buffs my corpse explosion, so I'm starting to kind of build a class around that. And this game just offers all kinds of fun stuff like that, where you find a new item, you go, wait a minute, if I sink a bunch of skills into this and this and this and move some stuff around, all of a sudden I have a new build that's absolutely tearing things up, which is interesting, especially at endgame, to have that much change and flexibility still available. Let me know in the comments if you're playing Diablo 4 and what you think about it. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.